Hi, Deepa.
Hello, Rajpreet. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, a very warm welcome to you. And thank you so much for taking out the time on a 7 a.m. in UK. And I'm sure it must be really cold out there. So thank you so much.
My privilege.
Thank you. So for everyone on YouTube who's watching us, Deepa is a global communications professional with over 25 years of leadership experience in companies like eBay, Nissan, Mahindra Group, and Marico. She has worked in Asia, the Middle East, and the UK. She's a trustee for the animal charity Tree of Life for Animals. She aims to make an impact in life and in work. Deepa, with that, I think a lot of experience and insights that I'm really looking forward to on the session. So I think a very interesting topic today, Deepa, which is resilience. And I think something that our entire Unstoppable Woman theme of this event is based on. So, I'll be your thoughts on really how do you define resilience and your lessons with that. So would you like to share your screen as you were mentioning?
So I can just do that. I have a very short presentation which captures some of my time in Saudi Arabia and which I'm using. Wow. Please tell me if you can see my screen and I'll just put it up.
Yes.
Wonderful. Tell me when I'm ready to go.
Yes.
So what I'd like to cover today, and thank you so much to Save Cheese Life for inviting me, is the life lessons that I learned in resilience in the 2 years I lived in Saudi Arabia from 2018 to 2020. So Saudi Arabia was a surprise to us. We were actually moving to the UK in 2017 from New Delhi. And we actually moved our dogs over from New Delhi. We bought a car in the UK. But then my husband, he was a diplomat at the time. He was offered an opportunity to work in Saudi Arabia for 2 years. And he aimed to convince me like husbands do. And I was pretty reluctant, I must say. I was concerned about, Saudi Arabia's reputation and how women or even dogs would be perceived there, but it was confirmed to us that our dogs were welcome, that we had a house, a garden, which gave me some confidence. And then what I would say is that Saudi Arabia and many new countries are a culture shock. So we were fortunate because we were staying in the diplomatic quarters, which is very multicultural. So there's Saudis, there's people from pretty much every different country. But what's interesting about Saudi Arabia, for those who have possibly not been there, is that it's actually described as a fruit salad and not a melting pot. Many people may have heard the melting pot expression for countries like the US or for Singapore, which kind of integrate all the different cultures and make this one unique culture. Whereas Saudi Arabia, somebody described this to me, and I thought it was very interesting, is a fruit salad, and all the international cultures that actually move there retain their unique identity. So that's a different experience of multicultural living that you need to experience. And then I went through my own culture shock because I had to learn to wear an abaya, which is the modest clothing that is recommended there. I learned to speak conversational Arabic. I watched some fairly basic freedoms being given to the country during the 2018 to 2020 period, like women were allowed to drive, women could then travel independently. There was movie theaters, which opened after almost 30 years. So these were seen as, of course, tremendous change in the nation, but for people coming from outside, it was a different experience. And then, of course, there are the unusual things like there is a family section in restaurants. So regardless of whether you're a single woman or a married woman, you always use the family section. And the single section is only for males. There's prayer time 5 times a day, which means that shops and supermarkets shut down. And all of this is things you need to get used to, because if you go at prayer time, you'll be stuck in the parking lot or inside the supermarket for 30 minutes while people go and take their prayer break and come back. So this was, I guess, some of the culture shock experiences. What's the professional scene like? Professional scene was, there is a concept of Saudiization, which means many roles, like in many countries around the world, are reserved for Saudi nationals. I also had the challenge of being a diplomatic spouse without the right to work. So I spent some fairly fruitless months trying to find work in the private sector. But I soon realized that the only option for me was to work with the British Embassy, where my husband was already working, and they had a few corporate services roles available for diplomatic spouses. And I found work then as an estates manager, which was really not my area of specialization or interest, because like Rajpreet just explained, my focus has always been communications. But my choices were to stay home or to take the role and get involved in the embassy committees. And there were many interesting committees which were in my area of interest. So that was something that I chose to do. But I also felt I needed additional intellectual stimulation. So I explored and signed up for a CELTA teaching course from British Council in Cambridge. This allowed me to work as an English teacher to teach people, to speak English. And that's something I did some work in. And then I also started an MBA from the University of Bradford. It took me 3 years to graduate, which I just did last month. But it was quite an interesting journey for me, because as an experienced professional, studying again is a very interesting experience, because you can bring a lot of applied knowledge. And I think it's really helped me reskill myself and bring that business acumen, or hone it even better. So I did manage to go to 2 modules, which was in the campuses at both Dubai and Bradford, and then the pandemic hit. So I pretty much did most of my MBA online. And then I continued to get creative with my time there, because I felt like I had so much time to do things that I would like to do. So because of this teaching qualification, I started teaching a Moroccan student essay writing. And then a Korean diplomat reached out to me to learn business English. I joined the Women's Skill Bureau, which was a wonderful community organization, as their board member, and was editing their monthly newsletter, which went to about 10,000 subscribers every month. And of course, I had my work in the British Embassy. But I was fortunate, and I found my tribe. I co-founded a foodie group called Riyadh Vegetarian and Friends, and we used to meet every week and check out different restaurants. Some restaurants which had never served vegetarian food would make modifications for us, and it was very, very interesting. Not everybody in the group was vegetarian, but it was but we always ate vegetarian on the day. And then the Women's Skill Bureau's board members itself were also really, really good friends. And, there was a lot of multicultural connections and exchanges of culture. And then I made a Saudi bestie, or a best friend, at the local parlor in my first month there, which was really lovely as well. And we've stayed in touch and still exchange notes. So what are the life lessons in resilience, and what Sechi's life wanted to hear? I would say that be open to new experiences, new cultures, and new learning. This is the most important thing I can give you. If you go to any new experience, it doesn't need to be a new country, but just something outside your comfort zone. Show respect for local culture. So in this case, while the diplomatic quarters itself didn't require you to wear the abaya, but if you went outside, it was appropriate to wear it. If you didn't wear the abaya, because later it became optional, do wear modest clothing as appropriate to the local culture. Respect things like prayer time, or during Ramadan, which is a time when nobody eats outside during the day. These are things that you need to respect, and everybody appreciates your efforts at conversational Arabic, even if it's very, very basic words. I would say that is very well appreciated. But most importantly, experience the culture. So make friends, socialize, experience the deserts, which is quite an amazing experience, I would say. Go to the museums. The local museums are wonderful. Go explore many different kinds of restaurants. Don't stick to Italian and Indian and Mexican, but experiment with Turkish and Saudi and Jordanian and all the local cultures that you can experience. Hang out at the local mall and people watch. Don't live in a bubble, because that is possible to do in any expat or multicultural environment. You can live just with your friend circle, but really, if you move out of the bubble, that's where life is. I really enjoyed meeting members of the Women's Skill Bureau. The foodie community was wonderful, and we used to catch up outside of the foodie group as well. I enjoyed working on many of the embassy committees and doing work, especially in the cross-cultural space. The embassy itself had 30 different nationalities working, so that was a very unique experience, and obviously you needed to adapt your communication style to each person. I loved traveling both inside Saudi and as a gateway to places in the region. And we had 17 parks in the neighborhood. So my dogs used to enjoy weekends, because we would go and check out a new park. And that's a park that I've just put up a picture. My husband and I regularly stepped out of the country, both for long and short breaks. It was important for us to take that break from the country and then come back refreshed. And most importantly, I would say, think of it as a life experience that makes you much, much stronger. Try not to compare it with your previous life, because that will make you unhappy. So that's what I have for today. And just stop sharing.
Wow. Deepa, I mean, it's just so very, breathtaking for me, to have, I could live your experience as you were talking through it. And, I think a lot of great points you mentioned, that goes much beyond those slides, and we've been talking since yesterday about possibilities. And when you mentioned that, you need to be open to every single cuisine, that's actually a lot to do with even the mindset being really open.
That's right.
So I think, so Deepa, something more about, we would like to hear about, the resilience that you really displayed, and what really was the driving force, behind it.
I would say that, the most important thing was when I went there first, I was reluctant. I wouldn't say that I went there and I enjoyed myself, but over a period of time, as I found my tribe, as I found interesting experiences, as I learned to appreciate the local culture, I started really enjoying it. And I felt like this is a unique experience that I may never happen again in my life. I've traveled to many different countries, but to live in Saudi Arabia, especially during the period of tremendous change that it's going through, it is modernizing and opening up. And that was something quite unique to be part of. So I think that resilience life skill really got honed during that time. And now I have that, and it's helped me in spades coming to the UK in the pandemic.
So, Deepa, what are some of these lessons which can actually, have the universal appeal? And what message would you really like to give to the viewers?
I would say that my experience is that if you define your own experience. So if you project something into the universe is waiting to project it back to you. So if you project hope and optimism and interest and curiosity, that will be projected back to you. If you project, I want to be, out of here and I'm just like being in jail, then that's what you will experience. So in any new experience, anything outside of your comfort zone, try and develop a sense of curiosity. Try and reach out to as many people. People are just waiting to extend their hand. The opportunities are there. So obviously, if I had a working visa, maybe I'd have had a different experience. As a non-working spouse, I had to be very creative. But I found joy in being creative. I've never done that in my life, and it was wonderful to be able to experiment in so many different directions. And then finding that tribe, that really matters, because that, it became something that every Friday I would look forward to meeting my foodie community. And every month the Women's Skill Bureau and their newsletters and their events, and working with the community, that was something I really enjoyed as well. So I think it's just about making your peace with the change that maybe you didn't want or you didn't expect, and then finding the joy in it.
Wow. So, Deepa, a lot of women go through, I would say, a lot of change, is not very easy. For example, you move to a different country and you kept moving to various countries. And if I may call you a global citizen, but a lot of women, may not really be so much open to either mobility or change. And, so how do you really adapt to that, so quickly and to your advantage and passion?
I would say that, again, it's similar to things we've just talked about. It's being open. It's taking it as an opportunity to reinvent yourself. And I think, if I wasn't in Saudi Arabia, maybe I would never have studied for the MBA. Maybe I wouldn't have had the time. Or if, maybe I wouldn't have had a foodie group. Life in many other cities might have been too busy. But in Saudi Arabia, I did have the time, and I was able to do a lot of different fun things, which I think have made me an even better professional. And I think just taking all the opportunities out there and projecting those positive vibes, and saying that I think there's a lot of self-belief as well you need to hone. It gets hard, and it can be isolating and lonely, especially to go to, as an adult. It's much harder. When we were children or in college, I think we made friends just by walking around. You hung out together. I think as an adult, it's harder to make friends. So you have to make a little bit of effort.
Sure. And Deepa, with all the automation happening and digitization and, the future of work skills looking very different. So, you've lived across countries, you've worked across industries. So what really is your view are some of the skill sets that women should really, look forward to gain? You've even recently done your MBA, so that's again, stands for the constant learning. So what message, again, would you like to share?
I would say the most important thing is emotional intelligence. This is something that is hard to develop, but once you do develop it, I think it's a real life skill and a professional skill. So being emotionally intelligent can help you with resilience. It'll help you because you'll have strong self-awareness. You'll be a very good listener. You'll have the empathy to deal with many different environments, cultures, people at different life stages. Today, we work in multi-generational workforce. Even if you work in the same organization and or in the same industry, there is a huge amount of change because, we might be, I don't know the age group of people on the Say Cheese app, but maybe you have people in your 30s and 40s, but you also have people in your 20s and maybe 60s. So, you have all these multi-generational thing, and you really need a lot of empathy and emotional resilience. I think also business acumen. This is a skill that regardless of what function you're doing, you need to understand the drivers of your business. You need to understand the business strategy. It doesn't matter if you're doing an admin or a reception role, or if you're doing a senior management role or a junior management role. It doesn't, just developing a strong business acumen is something I would highly encourage. It does not need you to do an MBA or any kind of course. I think this is something you can develop, even in a professional setting. I would also say learning agility. This is something that you have to be willing to adapt. For example, communication channels have changed. Podcasting, but for example, is a new thing. So, what are your skills in that area? Or if you are in human resources, how much do you know about change communication? And, so think about where your industry is going. Try to read up, use forums like LinkedIn or Harvard Business Review or whichever newsletter you subscribe to. And it's also about networking. I would say that, the ability to network, and obviously we'll come to that. Say Cheese is offering a wonderful platform, can give you so much of learning because you can learn from other people. It's just about developing curiosity and listening and asking the right questions.
Absolutely, Deepa. I think, you also touched upon networking, and frankly, I always felt that work would speak for itself, and, never really believed in the power of networking. And I've been sharing this with a lot of people since yesterday. But now we have built this networking app, and I never dreamt that, we'll ever be building something of the sort. And so again, there is still a lot of hesitation in women, with respect to networking. And so what do you think is really stopping women to raise their hand or come out of their shells? Even now, there's still a long way to go.
I think there is a very real imposter syndrome that many women and some men experience, where we always feel like we need to be 100% or even 120% before we apply for a job, for example, or before we put ourselves forward for a promotion, whereas many others might be confident enough to go even if they're at a 70%. So what I'd say is that try and find a support network, which is or an encouraging space where you can slowly blossom, because it can't happen in a day that I was a shy retiring person and then suddenly I go out there and conquer the world. It's always about baby steps, but having a supportive environment, having a good network, having the ability to I would say mentor and coach each other, because peer to peer is sometimes much more powerful than somebody more senior, somebody more famous talking to you. A peer has gone through gone through a life experience that you may want to experience yourself. So I think that's something that I think possibly is part of the Sage Cheese offering as well. And I think that can be very powerful. And I think it's also about, being a little bit confident enough to ask for help. It's really important to ask for help at the right time. So, if I had just sat, and taking my Saudi Arabia experience, if I just sat in my lovely little villa in diplomatic quarters, I would have spent 2 years doing nothing but just, hanging out with my dogs and maybe going for walks and go traveling. That would have been a terrible experience because it would have been, living in the four walls in my little bubble. Whereas I had a much richer experience because I asked for help, because I went to different communities. I was fortunate because on my third week, I went to the Women's Skill Bureau event, which is called Survive and Thrive. And it is for newcomers to the kingdom, and just to welcome us and to open our eyes to all the things that are out there. And it was an amazing experience. And I was like, oh, wow. And that really excited me, and it gave me a perspective. And I ended up joining the Women's Skill Bureau as a board member, and you said it just 6 months down the line. So it is really about asking for help, and to an extent having a very good support network and professional board, or what I call a personal board, your friends, your family, your mentors, your friends, people who can give you very honest feedback.
Wow. We are trying to create that strong support ecosystem at Sechi. So if you need some 6-7 people out there who can really help your lives become better, so that's what we are trying to create, that dedicated board of members that you can have for yourself. So Deepa, we also at Sechi's, again, we have one of our flagship courses, which we call as the personal transformation course, in which we talk a lot about how do you really, give up on those biases, and which kind of hinder you from really opening up to, yourself to new possibilities. So I think you've been a living embodiment of being open and opening yourselves to really new possibilities. And I can tell you that I've been a person who goes to the same restaurant and would order the same menu. So at least I used to be. I'm a lot more open now. But
I think it's always a journey. I've had my days. If you ask my parents, I think when I was a child, I wanted to have the same items every single time we went out. But as I've become more of a foodie, I've started learning that there's so much more out there. But like you said, it is a journey, and it's great that you have a course that help people go on their journey.
sure, sure. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Deepa. I think it's really been a pleasure talking to you. And I think meeting you after a long time, it's really nice. And
Right? You too.
Deepa, we would love to have you, again, actually, join us through the app itself, once the Apple version goes live anytime
Sure.
in future. I understand right now you're in the UK, but yeah, maybe sometime in future. So thanks so much. And maybe you can have a foodie group on the app as well.
That would be nice as well. Maybe an international foodie group. I used to have a food blog in Mumbai, so I've always had something on. I think the only thing I would just like to say to everybody, if you don't mind, Rajpreet, before you sign me off, is that you know you don't know what's out there, so network your way to your next job, your next business, and maybe even your next best friend. So just put yourself out there and make the most of every opportunity that Sechis is offering.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Deepa. And I wish you all the very best.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll keep in touch and see you soon again. Thank you so much for your time. Bye.
My privilege. Bye bye. Take
Yeah,
care.
bye.